and welcome to the next episode of the Horror Countdown podcast. I'm your host, Don Anelli, and with me is one of my best friends in podcasting, even though I think this is the first time we've ever actually spoke together. My friend from the Horror for Dummies podcast, Tim.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Not only is this, it's a blast to not only be talking with you, but I think our chosen topic is one that's going to be a lot more special, just because I think in the ethos of podcasting, this is the topic that I think we had to do together, and I'm so glad that we're finally doing this.
So am I, man. I'm super stoked with this topic. It's something that I love, and yeah, I have an interesting list.
Oh, same here. For those that don't know, we are both incredibly huge fans of killer shark films, and I knew we had to do this as soon as we brought the topic up. So I think this is just going to be one of those. It's just kismet that podcasting universe had to bring us together to do this. So
Definitely. It's about time too. I'm really excited for this.
yeah, absolutely. Since that's going to be the topic for the evening, let's go ahead and get us started. Let's get your number 10.
Yeah, cool. All right, so we're starting off at number 10, and I went back and forth with two films, but I went with a movie called 12 Days of Terror,
Ooh.
and the story of this is basically the story that Jaws was based on. It's the attacks in 1916 on the Jersey Shore. Basically, this is a lesser Jaws. It has a lot of the same story beats from Jaws, including the officials refusing to close the beach, a grief-stricken mother, and one man fighting against the public. Is it as good as Jaws? I mean, I don't really have to answer that, but no. Otherwise, it would be higher on this list. But I first time I'm watching this, I didn't expect much of anything in this film, and I came out actually enjoying it much more than I thought I would. The shark attack scenes are better than expected. The acting is okay, and the story is interesting, especially for a period piece film set around 1916. I think they got a lot of the set designs pretty spot on. There might have been one or two boats that looked a bit modern, but I can get past that. But this one, I had some fun with it, man. It's an interesting film. I think it's worth a watch, but I got to say, like, don't go in expecting Jaws level quality or anything like that, and I think you'll like it. So my number 10 is 12 Days of Terror.
Nice. I saw that maybe once or twice back when it came out because for us it was a made for TV movie.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
know where I don't know where it came over for you, but for us it was a made for TV movie, and I think I saw it for the premiere and maybe once or twice after. I'm not sure. I do agree. I remember some of the attack scenes being better than expected, especially considering the format. Again, made for TV movie
Hmm.
for us, but yeah, I do agree. I do like the fact that a lot of the attack patterns, as you mentioned, are based on Jaws, where it's a similar setup in a different format. Where I do appreciate that it goes in that direction. I'd probably think higher of it if I was a little bit more familiar with it, but I'm not mad
Yeah,
at it. It's a solid pick. I definitely like it. It's a
yeah,
nice one that's out of the ordinary.
definitely.
Yeah. For my number 10, I think mine's gonna, at least for the first few, I think I'm gonna go slightly cheesier than most people would. Um, but
I was waiting for it, to be honest.
my number 10 is Santa Jaws.
Oh wow, perfect time to be talking about that one too.
Yeah, absolutely. So not only is this one of the few holiday creature features, since we're recording this in December just before, but yeah, I have a blast with this. I love the setup for it. I love the family dynamics. You get the idea that he's willing to go in. That he draws the shark to begin with. It comes off kind of, even as ludicrous the premise is. I like the way that they handle it. I like the way it comes off, and the attacks are a blast. I'm much more of a person that I love just how cheesy and stupid they go,
Mhm.
and I like the way that this handles it. As soon once the shark gets the unicorn impalement with the broken candy cane, all hell breaks loose, and it's just so much fun. So yeah, I do have some of the cheesier stuff on here, but I do have a lot more of the serious, artful ones.
Yep.
But I do have a soft spot for the cheesy ones. So my number 10 is Santa Jaws.
Nice. Look, I'll be 100% truthful with you right now. I'm not huge into the cheesy shark films, but I checked out Santa Jaws. I think we were doing it on Horror for Dummies, and I literally expected to hate it, and I came out like laughing my ass off. I thought it was an absolute blast. So this is a movie that has made me want to go and check out some of more of those cheesier films, like the sequels to Sharknado and Six Headed Shark Attack. So I've got to do that at one point.
Yeah, I get the idea that the cheese isn't the cheese isn't for everyone, and it took me a while to get used to it. But for me, what got me used to it is I don't buy into the realism of what's going on. I just buy into the context of the story. I buy
Yeah,
into to me that matters more than okay, yeah, whether or not this would legitimately happen as a real shark attack versus okay, in this universe this can happen, let's just go with it. And as soon
yeah,
as
I
I
get you.
kind of got into as soon as I got into that mindset, it I allowed myself to have a lot more fun with it. I am never in a million years going to say most of these are good quality films, but if you're just having some fun, laughing at how stupid and ridiculous they are, if these were to really happen in a realistic setting, then I think these are going to be kind of like just have a fun kind of films. And I do kind of gravitate to that, but I'm definitely willing and able to recognize a quality film when it happens. So
Definitely. I mean, yeah, for entertainment value, you can't go wrong.
right, exactly.
Yep.
So it moves us to your number 9.
Okay, my number nine. Speaking about suspending disbelief, this movie, while it's not on the level of Sharknado, it is somewhat ridiculous. So, my number nine is Shark Night 3D. Okay, so no, I'll agree this is not the best shark film out there, but I think it's one of the most fun films on my list. I put this up to be basically the Friday the 13th of shark films. You got
Mm.
kids go into the cabin on the lake and they get picked off one by one by sharks. What I like about this film is it does something that other shark films don't do, and that's it features different kind of sharks. You get like yes, you get the great white, of course, but you also get hammerheads, bull sharks, thresher sharks, and even the cookie cutter shark, which I don't think has ever been in another movie. I correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong, but I've never seen a
yeah,
cookie cutter
nothing.
shark.
Yeah, nothing's popping up. I know a lot of them tend to go with a great white or
Yep.
megalodon,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, great whites or megalodon seem to be the preferred choice. I know bull sharks have popped up in a few,
Hmm.
and I recall seeing one or two involving a tiger. But
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, yeah, I don't. Nothing's coming to mind for that particular species. So
Yeah. Neither. And that's what makes it fun. Like this movie is just, it's a pure popcorn film. You can just sit back, enjoy it. Um, some of the effects are a little cheesy, but you go in expecting that. The other thing I like about this movie is the whole reasoning behind what's happening. I actually thought it was kind of a cool idea as to what happened. I don't want to give away anything in case someone hasn't seen this, but the whole reason as to why sharks are in the lake, I thought it was actually pretty cool. So Shark Night 3D, I think it's worth a watch. I quite enjoyed this one, so that's my number nine.
yeah, I liked it when it first came out. I soured to it a little just when I heard a little bit more reviews to it. Some of the stuff to it, some of the negative reviews I heard made a little bit of sense, and I kind of spotted what they were talking about. But
Yep.
yeah, I do agree. When I first saw it, I had fun with it. I did like you said, the mixture of sharks. I did like a lot of the attack scenes. They were pretty well handled. Some of them were a little bit more brutal than I was expecting for a PG-13 film.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the one where they toss the victim into the cage and they eat them alive because they have the smaller species and they just like start
Hmm.
poking holes in the body. Yeah, that was a lot more brutal than I was expecting. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's an underrated one. It's not on my list, but if if we would have made this list when it first came out, it may have made the upper section just because I did remember liking it when it first came out. So
Nice.
yeah. So my number 9. This is another one of those cheesy, stupid, schlocky films. I went with Robo Shark.
Oh, I haven't seen this one actually.
This is one of my favorites. It's probably this is one of my favorite sci-fi channel films. So in this one, just a real quick recap. An alien spacecraft falls out of the sky and lands in the ocean, where a shark swallows it, but it ends up turning it into an enhanced cybernetic beast,
Oh my god.
and
I love it.
it uses various social media apps and interfaces to interact with the community and travel around the world. So it'll pull up Instagram pictures of like a various location, and then it'll just magically appear there, or um, it actually interact with one of the characters through Twitter. They'll like be messaging each other on Twitter back and forth as like trying to figure out how, what it's doing, where it's, why it's attacking, like various stuff like that. And one of the best lines in the film, to me, this is the gold standard for cheesy shark lines, is I just got to notice Robo Shark followed me on Facebook.
Oh no. You sold
Yeah,
me. I gotta go check this one out now.
yeah, yeah. It's a I have so much fun with it. I mean, the concept is a little old because it's 2015 or 16, but there's just a lot of just goofy, schlocky fun in this one. The attacks are all action sequences, just explosions all over the place, tons of bodies. It's a blast. Yeah, I have so much fun with it. The concept is ridiculous. It's just absolutely just go with it, and I have a lot of fun with it. I always look at this one as like one of the unheralded Sharknado kind of ones because it came out during Sharknado week. For us,
Okay.
yeah, for us, I think on the last three, when 4, 5, and 6 came out, there was a whole week of shark films, of originals that came out to promote the release. Because the new Sharknado film would premiere on the Sunday. So Monday, the week before, they would start airing new films, and then that Sunday they'd have an all-day marathon, and then the new Sharknado would premiere, at the bottom of the schedule. And this was one of the films. I think it premiered sometime during the week. I don't remember, but it was one of those Sharknado premiere week films, and I love it. It's one of my favorites. So yeah,
Definitely need to check this out.
yeah,
I
it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I actually have never actually heard of it.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a sci-fi one. I don't know if there's an actual physical media release because a lot of these didn't. A lot of
Yep.
these I think are just out in I know a couple of them got released in like a box set when the Meg came out. There was a
Oh,
couple
okay.
when the Meg came out. There's a couple of releases in American shores where they had various like cheesy shark films packaged together with like a Meg type of a screenshot just to like promote it, thinking you were going to get that kind of a film. And they had like 4 or 5 or like maybe even more like packaged together. I mean, it's just the movie, so you're not getting anything else with it. But there was a couple of them that got released in packages like that, but there's still not a lot of. Most of these don't even have like individual releases, as far as I'm aware, unless they're in foreign markets. Because I believe the UK may have released some of them, but at least as far as an American shore is concerned, most of these didn't get any release. Although a few of them ended up on box sets and packages like that. So yeah, if you're interested, I
Nice.
can check around and look to see if any of them did pop up. But I mean,
Yeah, I'll have a look at mine too. See where they are.
yeah, because like I said, there's a few box sets that came out around the time the Meg was released, and they were like trying to like capitalize like the Asylum does, where you think you're getting it, but you're actually getting something else. So Yeah, I think that's the case with it. So it probably slipped a lot of people's radar. If it did
Yeah.
come out, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Right. Okay. I get you. Good marketing.
Yeah.
All right. On to 8.
Yeah, you're number 8.
My number 8. Okay. So this list was never not going to feature a Jaws film. So my number 8 is Jaws 2. And for a multitude of reasons. So number 1, the shark looks fantastic. Except for that one scene where the mouth folds in half. That's still a bit funny. Number 2, the story is great. Yeah, okay, it's somewhat of a rehash of the original Jaws in many ways, but I think it stands up pretty well on its own. Plus, it features some great kills, like the boat attack scene where the shark gets lit on fire. Like just like some other ones. Some great scenes like the orca dead on the beach. Another number 3, returning characters. We see a lot of them. You got Chief Brody, Mayor Vaughn, all the other characters in the background from the original. I think for most people, this is the second best Jaws film in the franchise. For me, it's definitely a film that I love and I return to now and then. I love this universe. I love the Jaws universe, the island, the scenery, and everything in between. Jaws 2 is definitely a film that I put on yearly. I love the whole franchise. But Jaws 2 is definitely up there for me. It may sound like a bit low on the list, but there's reasons. We'll get to that later. So Jaws
Yeah.
2 for me, number 8.
It was a contender for me. I'm a big fan of it as well. I like the fact that it's somewhat of a slasher setup where it's the shark hunting them down one by one.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that aspect of it. I think it's maybe 10 minutes too long. A lot of the early stuff is a little kind of redundant.
Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
Yeah, that's my main issue with it. Is a lot of it just feels redundant. And then who in the hell in their right mind is gonna not believe Brody when he says, when he of all people screams shark?
Yeah. He's seen
Yeah,
one up close.
yeah. I think Brody of all people should be able to clearly tell what shark looks like. So
Yeah.
that that's kind of a big detrimental for me. But I do agree. I do have a lot of fun with it. I do like it a lot, and it was a consideration. I think it made my honorable mentions, so it's on there for me. But
Okay, nice.
yeah.
I mean, it's got that great line in it where it says sharks don't take things personal.
Oh yeah. I have a feeling I know where that's going. Yeah. All right. My number 8. I'm kind of done with the schlock for now, but
Okay.
um, I do think this one could probably fall under it. For some, I went with Deep Blue Sea.
Can I just interrupt right now? Number 7 is Deep Blue Sea for
Oh,
me.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, let's go. Let's dive in.
Yeah.
Um, this was the first horror film I saw in the theaters. So
Wow. Okay.
I have a special attachment to it. I actually paid for a PG movie and snuck in because
Nice.
I was only 15 at the time.
Hmm.
And I remember vividly walking out of the theater being overwhelmed when the shark ripped his arm off. When it when it comes to life and it grabs his arm and it rips his arm off when they're trying to extract him for their experiment.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I
Great
remember that
scene.
being I remember that vividly, and it like shook me and I was kind of like ugh, and I felt a little queasy, but I stuck with it. It's become a favorite ever since. I'm a big fan of what they do with it. The action scenes are a little over the top and they're ridiculous, but I love the fact that this, to me, outside of the original Jaws, is the one film that personifies the behavior of sharks at their most extreme and visceral, and that
Yeah.
all they're there for is just to kill people. Like they do nothing else but hunt people down,
Yep.
and the fact that this is one of the biggest fears I think people have with sharks. I haven't seen it outside of the original Jaws. A lot of the other stuff, humans just get in the way and the sharks just eat them. But
Hmm.
this is the only one I've seen where they are literally there just to eat people, and I have a lot of fun with that kind of a concept. So it ended up on my list for that very reason.
It somewhat, as I said before, like this one also takes the slasher approach as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was number 7 for me as well. It just has so much. This one's a pure popcorn film for me. Like I can just sit down, turn my brain off, and just enjoy it. Like it's got so many memorable scenes. Of course, everyone remembers the Samuel L. Jackson's death in it, but it's not just that. Like it's LL Cool J with the great lines, "You ate
Oh
my
yeah.
bird." That's great. But the one scene that always sticks out to me is actually closer to the start. Is when Thomas Jane's swimming, and there's a few people watching him, and then you see from the shadows of one of the sharks just coming up behind him, and then he does that backflip in water over the shark.
Mm. Oh yeah.
That's that scene where you see the shark for the first time, like coming up behind him. That was actually like scary for me. I didn't know
Hmm.
what was happening because I back when I first saw it, I didn't know Thomas Jane was a big actor or who he was. So I thought, oh, this guy's gone.
Yeah, because this was before the Punisher and before the Mist. So yeah, this was
True.
yeah, this was one of his earlier roles, I think.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, and actually, this is a film that doesn't feature great whites. These are Makos in this film, so
True. Yeah. Yeah.
there's
What we
another
were
one.
saying earlier. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's the only one I think that actually uses them. But yeah, like we were saying earlier with the cookie cutter using an unexpected species.
yeah, yeah. Have you seen the sequels?
Yes. I've seen all three.
Hmm.
Um, I have three as an honorable mention actually.
Oh, okay. What
Yeah.
did you think about number 2 then?
Two, I thought it was a retread at a third of the budget.
My thoughts exactly.
Yeah, I thought it was I thought it was a carbon copy with a lot of the same story elements, just on a like a third or a half of the budget.
Yeah, yep, I agree. I wasn't a fan either.
Yeah, it's my least of the three. I do like part three. I like where it goes there. Three kind of drops the sharks for the last act, but then it just brings them in just as sort of like secondary obstacles to overcome because there's this weird action feature that it goes into with I'm not really going to spoil it, but the third act turns away from a shark film into a like a shootout action film, and the sharks are just bystanders that just appear as like an obstacle to get away
Hmm.
from. But it's a lot of fun. I really like it. Like that third act is one of the reasons why it didn't appear on my list, but I have a lot of fun with it, and it's a lot better than I expected. So yeah, two
Nice.
not so much. Two not so much a fan. Three better than expected. So
Mhm.
if you're a fan, go ahead and check it out. Not a high recommend, but it's definitely better than you expect.
Yeah, I agree with that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So since that was your number seven, my
Yep.
number seven is actually going to be one that I don't expect a lot of people to have seen. Maybe you've seen it, but not expect it to be this high on a list. I went with
Yep.
Great White.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, the recent one. I really enjoyed it. So one of the things I've noticed in recent years is that a lot of these movies seem to have adapted the premise of the reef, and
Hmm.
it's basically for those that are unfamiliar, people are stranded in the middle of the ocean and try to get to safety while a shark hunts them down and kills them one by one. There's been quite a few that have used either that same premise or a similar setup, and this to me is I think one of the better of them. uh, Basically a a tourist group, not a tourist group, but a tourist guide and his wife are chartering this couple to this remote island to lay their father's ashes as a last request. They end up spotting this body washed ashore, and they try to radio back to land to get help, but the shark attacks and drowns their plane, so they're forced to make their way back to safety in the life raft, only for the shark to come up and keep attacking and killing them is whenever it gets the chance to. I had a lot of fun with it. I do like the main group here. I think the most recognizable name is Katrina Bowden, who is the main girl from Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's the one that I think it's the girl that they end up taking back with them, thinking that she's been injured, but she's really not. She's the one who develops the relationship with Tucker, I believe. I get the two mixed up. I think it's Tucker.
Dale, it's Dale. Dale. Tuck
Oh,
was
it's
the other
Dale.
one. Yep, yep.
Okay, yeah, I get the two mixed up. But yeah, that's her. She's the girl in this. It's a lot of fun. The shark is a fun mixture of practical and CGI, which I'm a big proponent of. I do like the final confrontation with the shark. It's pulled off pretty well. Yeah, I had a lot more fun with it than I expected, and I really enjoyed it. It's far better than I thought it would be. Because the thing is, I'm really not a big fan of the reef, so I was actually kind of surprised that I liked this as much as I did. So, my number seven, Great White.
Nice, nice. I agree. I applaud it for using practical effects because it's not common these days that you see a practical effect shark anymore, and so that was a big shock. I'm obviously not as high as as you are, but I think I'm gonna have to rewatch it before the end of the year because I don't know, it could maybe be up there for me, but I need to rewatch it.
Yeah, right now it's hovering around 10, 11, and 12. So it'll probably be at the very end or an honorable mention at the very worst.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, at least that's where I am with my list for the year. I still have a few more to check out. I don't suspect I'll have any contend. I don't suspect I have any contenders left, but there's still a few that I just want to make sure I get in before I make it official. So
Yep, yep.
where I am right now, it's hovering between 9, 10, 11, and 12. So
Wow, okay.
yeah,
That's great.
possible at the end of the list or honorable mention, but we'll see.
Cool. All right, my number six. Speaking about the reef,
Mm.
so the reef is my number six. So if you don't know what the reef is, obviously you do, but after a sailboat capsizes, the survivors are left in the open water with great white sharks. It's basically the premise of this movie, as Don said before. This is the only Australian shark film on my list, which might be a shock to some people since I am Australian, but yeah. But no, when I first saw this movie, it actually blew me away. This came out before this new modern wave of shark films happened, and I give this film and I guess Sharknado credit for reamping the shark craze that we're still into to this day. For me, The Reef is actually a scary film. This would be up there for me with Jaws as one of the scarier shark films, and the reason is because the sharks in this one they act like normal sharks, besides the whole stalking humans part, of course. But they don't swim backwards like they do in Deep Blue Sea, and they don't do all this other stuff that they do in other movies. So they're as close as they can be to real life sharks. Another thing that I liked about this film was the effects. All the shark action in this film is actual footage of sharks that the makers have spliced together with the actors, and it made it. When I first saw this, I was blown away because back when I first saw it, I really knew nothing about films. I mean, I still don't, but I knew very, very little back then. And I always wondered, like, how did they do that? How did they like put those together? Like, yeah, they're definitely not real sharks with the actors, but I was just blown away how they did that. Um, for me, The Reef is a movie that if I see it on TV, I have to sit down and watch it. I really love this film, and I find lately that I'm the only one that seems to really like it. Everyone else seems to not enjoy it as much as me, but that's fine. I really enjoy this one. So six for me is The Reef.
Yeah, I'll give it props. I do like a lot of what you mentioned are some of my positive points with it. I love the setup to it. I love the practical effect nature of it. You know, using actual real life sharks amongst the crew. To me it adds like a realism to it that's far more terrifying.
Mhm.
I I for some reason I just get bored just watching a guy dunk his head underwater like every 10 minutes and just like looking at the world through the goggles. To me,
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
I think it does that a few times too many, and it kind of just feels kind of redundant. I would absolutely be blown away at this if this was like an anthology entry. If this was something that was maybe pared down to like 40, 50 minutes as like the first part of an anthology, because I get a little just bored with repeating that specific tactic over and over again. It's chilling the first few times because you don't know where it is, you don't know if they're there, you don't know how many are there, and there's just this otherworldly nature to the way that they use it. And I love the first few times it does it. I just think it does it a few times too many with false attacks, and
That's fair. Yeah.
that's my main issue with it. I think it does the false attacks a few times too many. But by and large, a lot of your positives are the stuff that I agree on. A lot of those are the reasons why I like it. I'm not as I just I don't like using that one feature for false attacks a couple times too many. So
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, it's higher on my list, but it's not like I'm like in love with it enough to put it on the list. Like that's kind of where I feel with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My number 6 is Ghost Shark. Going back to the cheese.
Oh wow. Okay.
When I first saw this one, this I actually liked more than the first Sharknado when it first came out, because this one, for those that don't know, actually came out a few weeks before the original Sharknado. Because the original Sharknado,
Okay.
yeah, for those that don't remember, the original Sharknado was just a random sci-fi movie that premiered whatever. It wasn't set up to be, the juggernaut that it is the way we remembered. It was just a random movie on sci-fi, and this um, Ghost Shark actually premiered, I think, 2 or 3 weeks before. So this one actually came out first, and when I first saw it, I liked it more than the original Sharknado. I thought the attacks in here are just so ludicrous and so over the top and so just damn ridiculous. The idea of a shark coming out of drinking like a water jug and eating a guy out from inside because he swallowed it from this water cooler jug. I was just in hysterics laughing at it.
Oh, gross.
um I was the best part is I was recently on a podcast and did a commentary on it, and when I was the only one that had seen it outside of the host. And when the other people saw that, they were like, "What? No, you can't be." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, it went there." And then the guy splits in half, and the shark head pops up, and the laughter in the room was just deafening. It was hysterical. I absolutely love that recording. But yeah, as for the film itself, it takes the idea that the shark appears anywhere because it's water to its absolute literal. The fact that it appears as in a child's slip and slide toy. The fact that it
Oh no.
appears it literally appears in a child's slip and slide toy, and it eats a character that's about to go slipping down it. It eats a character because he's working on the drainage pipes underneath the house. Like you're fixing the a clogged pipe in your bathroom or your kitchen, and
Mhm.
because of the water spills out, the shark grabs them and eats them there. It appears out of a broken fire hydrant, and it grabs a person and eats them in front of everyone. But beyond that, the idea that the shark is actually a sympathetic figure at the very end, because the beginning of the movie shows that it was just a random bystander that got killed because some drunken idiots caught a fish, ended up dropping a grenade into the water and killed it. So the entire time the shark ends up dying inside of this ancient Indian burial mound, and it ends up reanimating it and turning it into a literal ghost shark. But the idea that the shark is actually just an innocent bystander, it was just a victim that just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It got killed with a grenade, and it's now out in vengeance. It's a sympathetic turn, and I didn't expect it when it first appeared, as that was the reasoning why the attacks were happening. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's just schlocky fun at its best. The concept is amazing. It does, like it says, the shark appears wherever there's water, so it just has a lot of fun with it, and I'm a huge, huge fan of it.
You, You got to give these people credit for coming up with these ideas. Like, yeah, I mean, it's easy to come up with the title Ghost Shark or something like that, but the way they come up with the story to fit the title, you got to applaud that. Like,
Yeah.
like what you just said sounds amazing. This is actually another one for me that I haven't checked out because
Uh,
they're not focused. But the way you explain it, you're selling it so well to me. I need to go check these out now.
yeah. I mean, that's like I said, what we were saying earlier. Just stop looking at these in a realistic sense and just saying, okay, this is the world we're living in. This is what can happen in here. Let's just go with it. And
Hmm.
you're just letting the concept take hold and just going with it from there. So
Yep.
that's just the way I approach these movies. So
Nice.
yeah, um, I think that means we're up to number 5.
We are. Okay, so my number five here, I'm going to go with a movie called In the Deep. Now, Don, you probably know about In the Deep, but let me explain it. So, most people would know this movie as 47 Meters Down. I have to
Correct. That's
explain.
how I know. Yeah.
I have to explain to everyone the reason why I'm using the title In the Deep instead of 47 Meters Down. So, the original distributor Dimension Films had set a North American DVD and VOD release date for I think it was August 2016. However, in July of 2016, Dimension sold the rights to Entertainment Studios, and they cancelled the August home release and instead committed to a theatrical release in the States in the summer of 2017. I The thing is, they released copies of In the Deep on DVD and VOD, and I got my hands on one and I watched it, and I fell in love with this film. And the reason I say In the Deep is because the ending of In the Deep is different to 47 Meters Down, and in my opinion, it's much darker and better. When 47 Meters came out, what they did with the ending, it really, I didn't hate it, but I was like, why didn't they stick to the original ending? I don't know. They just they made it more Hollywood. Let's just say that. Um,
Mm.
the story as a whole is original. I mean, yes, it's not really possible of happening in real life, but hey, that's most horror films, so suspend disbelief. I love this film. The first time I saw it, I was blown away. The shark action actually had me jumping in my seat, which is rare. Like we're seasoned horror fans, it takes a bit for us to get scared and jump, but that whole scene, the whole pitch black scene with the flare, that was done so well that I didn't see it coming, and I remember jumping out of my seat so high. It was great. I loved it. I love the twists and turns that this film gives you. It never lets off. Like once these girls go into the cage and the sharks happened, it doesn't let off until the credits roll. And I love that about this film. This was in my top 10 favorite films of 2017. And
Mm.
quite honestly, if I was going to do like a top 10 of that decade, it would probably be in that too. I love this film, man. It's just a film that I can put on wherever I want. I have it on I have 47 meters down on Blu-ray that I watch all the time. I know people out there weren't big on this film when it came out. I just fell in love with it. It's right up my alley. It did everything. Like just the shark scenes were great. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about this movie. So In the Deep, aka 47 meters down, for me was my number five.
So I have both this and the sequel in my honorable mentions. I'm a big fan as well. I love the idea. The concept is just like you said, really original, and the idea that they're using y- the sharks just as something more than just the situation that they're in, which is terrifying enough. But then you
Yeah.
just add the threat of a shark attack on top of it. I love that. I love the way that they handle it. I kind of would have wished that they would have been a more prominent presence, just because it kind of it disappears to the two girls talking in the bottom for a little too long.
Yeah, true.
But I don't fault it as much because I'm a big fan of both actresses. I know Claire Holt is a native of yours, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a native of Australia, and Mandy Moore is ours. I'm a big fan of both, and I think they're both better than this material really deserved to be.
Yep.
So it makes their scenes together far more impactful and emotional than I was anticipating, just because of the setup. typical teen girls on holiday trying to do something dangerous and inventive to. Uh, she's trying to forget her boyfriend, right? Because he broke up with her for being
That's
too
right. Yep.
too boring. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I thought that was the thing. And then they go on the trip, and then it goes from there. It goes south from there. But yeah, their relationship together is really fun to watch. I like the way that they come off together. It kind of drags the film down just a tad because I wanted the sharks as more prominent presence.
Hmm.
But overall, yeah, I'm a big fan of it as well. I actually like the sequel just slightly more, just like I said, because
Wow. Okay.
I think the sharks are just a slightly more prominent presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're slightly more prominent presence, but I do really like both highly, and they're both on my honorable mentions. So yeah, I'm a big fan of both of them as well.
Nice. Nice. I watched the sequel the other day actually. That's another film I can put on whenever I want. It didn't make my top 10 because I just
Yeah,
had
I think it came out in a year where there was a little bit more competition. I think that was the problem.
yeah, yeah.
I think there was more competition that year, so I kind of just dragged that one down. But I do like the sequel just slightly better. I think I'd probably give like a half star rating higher if we were rating these. I'd probably give the sequel just like a half higher. But
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of both, and I like the way that they handle them. I like what they both do. I think they're pretty underrated.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
good to hear.
yeah. So you'll also probably be a little glad to hear my number 5 is Your Country's Bait.
Wow, okay. Nice.
I'm a big fan of this. I love the way that this handles it. I love the setup to this because it's sort of like we were saying here earlier. It's another one that has like a slasher premise to it, where they're trapped in the location and they can't get out. Only difference is that here they know who the killer is the entire time, but it's just trying to figure out how to avoid getting attacked. And I like what they come up with. There's some fun, inventive scenes in here. I love the way that they try to, maneuver around the top of the aisles, trying to get
Yep.
away and falling in. The attacks are great. I love the sequence down in the flooded car park. The asshole gets it, which is always fun to see.
Yep.
Um, yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of this. I love the premise. I love what they handle it. I'm not a fan of the ending. I think the ending is just a little too on the nose. I think that would have gone in a slightly darker direction just because I think it saves too many people, but it's one of the only issues I have with it. I'm a big fan of the film otherwise.
Nice, nice. Um, at the start of doing this list, I said that my number 10, I was tossing up between two films. Bait was the other film that I was tossing
Nice.
up between. So yeah, I'm right there with you. The yeah, as you said before, the scene where they're moving around the shopping center and the shark comes from below. That scene is unreal. I love it. And yeah, there's a lot of scenes here that's just really really good. The story is I mean it's fun, it's entertaining, but
Yeah.
take it for what it is. But yeah, no, I agree. This is a good film.
Cool. Yeah. Your number 4 then?
My number 4, and look, I'm probably getting a little too predictable here, but I'm gonna go with The Shallows for this one. Uh, Blake Lively. I mean, what more can I say? I think the best part of this film is the cinematographer. He does a great job of zooming in on
Mm.
important shots such as wetsuits. But in all seriousness, The Shallows is action packed from start to finish and features some of the best shark attack scenes in a film I've seen. That scene where the shark jumps out of the water and attacks the surfer is chef's kiss. I loved it. I
Mm.
loved it. Did not expect it at all when I saw it in the cinemas, and yeah, got to jump out of my life. But I thought that was really cool. I love the story of survival that keeps this film. That's the reason that keeps this film at the top of my list. Blake Lively, she does everything in this film to survive, and I think she does a phenomenal job of bringing to life this character and this film. The only real, I won't say it's a dislike or anything like that. It's more of a nitpick, but the ending as to how they solve the shark problem in this is a bit. Okay,
Mm.
I'll go with it, I guess. That's just a nitpick. It's not really a dislike or anything like that, but that's really the only problem I have with this film. Beyond that, I just everything that happened, I was just immersed in this film. I loved it from start to finish, and it will remain up there as one of my favorite shark films.
We haven't talked about it yet because it's on my list.
Ah, okay, nice.
Yeah, it's not number 4 for me, but it's on my list. My number 4 is The Meg.
Oh, okay.
I was not expecting this to be as much fun as it was. I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting a lot more of a schlockier film than this.
Hmm.
I've actually read the novel. It's one of the few instances where I have read the source material, and I like the way that it's close enough to it that it feels like a adaptation, but it's fresh enough that it's not just a straightforward from page to screen version. And a lot of that is I like where it goes with it in the second act, because I'm usually not one that I like this kind of a twist, but I do like the twist in that it switches around the target that we're chasing.
Yeah.
And the way that they do it is a lot of fun. I really like the way that they handle it. If you've actually seen the trailer, you've actually seen how they handle it, but I'm not going to go any further than that, just in case you haven't seen it. But I have a lot of fun with it. It's this big action popcorn kind of a feature. I love Jason Statham. I'm a huge fan of his regular non-genre output. I'm actually a huge Expendables fan. So I'm really
Oh, nice.
excited. Yeah, I'm really excited where that's going. But yeah, I have so much fun with this. There's a few scenes that are actually far more terrifying than I anticipated. I love the reveal of the shark in the escape pod where it just swims up behind him and just bites the glass, and you see that him
Yeah.
is actually standing inside the mouth when the teeth leave the glass. You see the fact that he actually does fit inside the entire jaw, and it's just just terrifying because you see the silhouette just appear out of the darkness, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger,
Yep.
and you realize just how far away it was when it came into view and how much bigger it's still getting, and it just yeah, that scene gets to me. I love the beach attack. The beach attack is just so good.
It's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah. um I have a lot of fun with it. It's one of my favorite films of the year. I think I had it on my list when it came out just because it's one of those kinds of films, but
Hmm.
yeah, for me I have The Meg.
This one's on my honorable mentions. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah. No, I loved it too. Like, I think when this came out, there was a lot of negative reviews out there, and I think people expected more gore. But I mean, how can you? Its mouth is so big, it swallows you
Yeah.
whole, so you can't really.
I
But
mean,
like,
yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, the first time you see it, you literally see the fact that he fits inside the thing's entire mouth.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah. I was fine with the PG-13 rating. It's one of the few instances where I don't really mind it. It wasn't a deal breaker for me. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had a lot of fun with this as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your number 3 then?
All right, my number three, and this is a movie that I know for a fact that you've seen this, Don, but I don't think many people really know that this movie exists, and if they do, no one really talks about it. But I'm going with 1998's Creature. So this is
Hmm.
another story of science gone wrong. If you don't know what Creature is, basically the story is an amphibious shark-like monster terrorizes an abandoned secret military base and the people who live on the island it's located on. A marine biologist as well as several other people try to stop it before it's too late. Now, okay, I'm stretching here, and I'll admit it, but I'm coming in with something different because this one isn't really your typical shark movie. Um, Peter Benchley's Creature, as it's known for. Obviously, Peter Benchley is the author of Jaws, and he wrote this one as well.
I,
This is a
I I think it was actually this is based on the follow-up novel, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, this is
Yeah. I think it's the follow-up. It may not be the next one he released after, but I think this was the one that he planned as like the spiritual sequel or something.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Um, Look, I'll be honest. This movie has a lot of nostalgia for me. This is a film that I used to watch as a kid all the time. It is a TV miniseries from 1998, and for some reason, it was always on TV here in Australia. Every time I turned on the TV, it was just on. I don't know why, but as I said before, this isn't your typical shark film, but more of a mutated shark that manages to grow legs and walk on land. I'll be the first to admit that this movie isn't perfect. It suffers from a few flaws, including acting, cinematography, score, story. But where the film works, and I still applaud it to this day, is its effects. The creature alone is worth checking this film out. In fact, I'll be real, it's actually one of my favorite creature designs. It's up there for me with the Xenomorph and the Predator. This creature, just the way it looks, the way it moves, it's amazing. Stan Winston worked on it, so that explains it all. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy,
Yeah. Special effects by Stan Winston, I think, explains a lot of stuff.
definitely, yeah, that guy can do no wrong to me. Rest in peace. But this is a movie that I wish more people would check out. I never see podcasts really reviewing this one. I, I know it's a TV miniseries and all that stuff, but I think it's better than a lot of people give it credit for. I love it. I think it's great. There's some really cool scenes in it. There's some really creepy scenes. There's a scene where the creature is just hanging in a tree that just gets under my skin every time I watch it. It stars Craig T. Nelson, who I'm sure most people know, but it stars some big names, and he's one of them. But this one is just it's more nostalgia coming
Mhm.
from it, but I love this film. There's just something about it. I think mainly I can put it down to is just the look of the creature. So my number three is Creature from
Uh,
1998.
that's a solid choice. Yeah, I saw it when it first came out because, like you said, it was a 2 night miniseries premiere over here when it came out. I've seen it maybe once or twice since, and I enjoy it. Like you said, the effects are just top notch. I like the story. I'm not in love with it. I think there's a few gaps and plot holes that kind of stick out, but it's been a while that I don't know for sure. But
Mhm.
I do agree with a lot of it. I do think it's a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. It definitely deserves to be rediscovered. I'll give you that one because I think I've probably seen it maybe once or twice just because I think the length of it's probably just always been like a drawback just to get into.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'm definitely I definitely agree. It's definitely worth a revisit and rediscover. It's it's
Mm.
so my number three, like you mentioned, is The Shallows.
There we go.
Yeah, I this is just a fantastic survival story. Using the shark as the means of trying to escape is a great premise. I love the fact that it shows up and it's a prominent presence, but it still reacts 99 times out of 100 like an actual shark does. It knows there's prey in the area and it knows it's there, but it's not just like specifically hunting her. It's just it's there, and that's you have to get around it. But you can't do it because you're injured, so you have to find ways of trying to survive and stay alive. I love that idea. I love how it handles it. You said it, the attacks are amazing. I got the surfer jump. That just came out of nowhere. I did not see that
Mhm.
coming. And yeah, I am never going to fault a cinematographer that makes a decision to place that thing squarely on her ass. Any cinematographer that is willing to do that in a film, you've definitely earned my praise and approval, good sir. Yeah, you're definitely worthy of praise and affection, my good man. But yeah, uh, even though it's something so stupid, the little relationship with the gull, I think it's a fun little lightheartedness in the face of everything. I love it. I think it's one of the most underrated films in the genre. It's just it's so good. I love that movie.
Agreed. Yep.
That brings us to our gruesome twosome. Let's have your number two.
All right. And this
No,
is where people are going to crucify me and call
not
me out.
before, not before me. Trust me.
Okay, all right. My number two, and and before you start yelling at me, let me explain. But my number two is Jaws: The Revenge. I will be the first one to tell you right now that this is a horrible, horrible movie, and probably one of the worst movies ever. But this movie is pure nostalgia for me. This is actually one of three movies that we owned on VHS when I was a young kid, and I watched religiously. And to this day, I can sit there, I can watch this movie on repeat. Yes, it is absolutely stupid. It has some of the worst writing in it, some of the worst plot holes in it. It's ridiculous. Like there's so much to hate with this movie, but at the same time, I would never ever say that this movie's boring. I think it's for entertainment value. I think it's definitely one of the best. For me personally, this is the second best Jaws movie in the franchise, and that's just me personally. Don't yell at me. But I grew up with this movie. I love it. It's honestly a movie. I own it on VHS. I own it on DVD. I own it on Blu-ray. The only thing I don't own it on is 4K because it's not available here in Australia. But this is yeah. I fall in love with this movie, and we just reviewed this on Horror for Dummies about a week ago. So if you want to yell at me more, you can go and listen to that. But this is for me. It's just a turn your brain off film and just enjoy it. And yes, I'll agree. Like, why does the shark roar? Why does the shark balance on its tail out of the water for most of the movie? Why does the shark explode when it gets hit by a boat? There is so many things wrong with this movie, but it's just pure entertainment for me. I cannot get enough of Jaws: The Revenge. So that's my number two.
Yeah. It's not that I don't disagree. Knowing you, I was expecting that as soon as you said crucify. As soon as you said that in the lead up, I knew where you were going just because I know you as well as I do. Uh, I would feel much more comfortable doing an in-depth review just because I have thoughts.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I will say I listening to a good buddy of ours and Jerry Herring did a spectacular review of this where he compared Jaws 3 and 4 together.
That was one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. Love
I
that
I
one.
I was almost tempted to download that and save it into my personal collection. For those of you that have not heard that episode, I'm going to link that in the show notes just for you guys to hear that because the way that they looked at that movie was just absolutely amazing, and it raised my viewing enough of it to where I don't consider it the train wreck that I used to because like you, I am not going to call this a well-made movie.
No.
Most of my issues are actually technical. Like you said, the shark roaring, the shark just not behaving right. I cannot count the number of times I spotted the model stand that the shark is balanced on.
Yeah.
I mean, you can plainly see the stand that it's being used to tow through the water in more occasions than I care to admit.
Yep.
But yeah, that particular episode, I do like a lot of where he went with it and a lot of what he brought up with it. And I revisited it shortly after that episode aired, just because I was impressed with what they did with it, and it raised my standards enough. I like what he illuminated with the movie. So my thoughts on it would be I'd need to do a full on in depth review of it, just because I don't know if I have the time, the energy, or the willingness to do it here. But I can't say I disagree, but it's just one of those where my personal thoughts, I would want to just dive into it like that. So
That's fair. I mean, you're
yeah,
more than welcome to disagree. Everyone
I know.
else
Yeah,
seems to. So.
I mean, I don't know if you're gonna get more hate than me because my number two is Sharknado 2, the second one.
Oh, well, okay.
That's my second one. This was actually the one that got me onto the franchise. Like I said, when I first saw the original, I actually liked Ghost Shark more. So it wasn't more like, oh wow, like this is just like this immediate thing that I can grab onto. It actually was the sequel for me, and that was the one that really sold me on where it went because The first film, for all that it does, for all the flack that it gets, it's actually a lot more of a contained story because it's really more about him trying to get to his family. So the sharks are just, in the way. This here, the sharks are prominent and they're far more in your face because it's throughout the entire city. It takes place in New York, and the spectacle, the cheesiness, the action in this, I was just enthralled with this the first time I saw it. I was like, oh my God, how are they going to top this? And then they top it. And then I was like, okay, now what? And then they bring out the actual news anchors. A lot of the broadcasters that you see on TV are actual broadcast news anchors here in the States. And they're treating this like it's an actual legitimate emergency. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so stupid. It's awesome. And the way that they treat it and the way that they treat the disaster unfolding and trying to apply logic and science to a Sharknado, I was just enamored with it. And this is the one that it won me onto the series. So yeah, this is where my love for cheesy schlocky sharks comes from. It has to be on the list. In all likelihood, in all honesty, it goes lower on the list because I do agree. I do like, The Shallows more. I do think it's a better movie. I do even think The Meg is a better movie. I do like The Meg a lot more, but for my personal taste, because I'm such a schlocky shark movie fan lover, this is the one that got me there, and this is the one that put me into that mindset. So, yeah, for me, it's Sharknado 2.
I expected a Sharknado film to turn up, but I didn't expect Sharknado 2, actually.
Mm,
So, well done.
yeah. So I think let's just pull the Band-Aid off and say the original Jaws for number one.
How'd you
I mean,
know?
it's not like I was really psychic or anything. I'm just trying to go on a limb. I mean, I don't know if that was really as sturdy a limb as people were expecting, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Look, I was going to start this episode off by saying, look, everyone who has heard me on podcasts or who knows me on Facebook knows that Jaws is my all-time favorite film. So of course it's going to be my number one film on this list. But I was going to do something crazy and leave it off this list because, like, I think we can all agree that Jaws is definitely the best shark film ever made. But I was going to leave it off the list, but I couldn't. I just
yeah,
couldn't. Like,
yeah.
Jaws.
I
Yeah.
had that same mentality. I was going to look at it and do, okay, let's just assume that Jaws doesn't exist. What are the 10 best? But I didn't
Yeah.
want to put that to you because I thought that would just be kind of like a disservice. Because, like you said, I would have very strong convictions about not only putting this as as the best shark film. I would have a very, very strong case about putting this as one of the best genre films.
Yeah, definitely.
I,
100%.
I could make a very strong case that if we're talking in terms of it being just a general film by itself,
Hmm.
regardless of genre, just a general film, I would very, very strongly say this is top five, if not higher. I mean,
I
I
stand
would
right there with you.
I would say top five at worst.
Yep.
I mean, the way that you can just name scenes and you could use that as a review. You can just name scenes, and I don't know of a movie that does that.
Yeah.
You can we can quote dialogue as a review and get away with it. We can compare the book and the movie and we can go that way, go that route.
Hmm.
There's to me no way that I can make a list like this and not pretend that the movie exists because it's just such a disservice to that film. I wouldn't have thought of asking you to do that. So
Yeah, look, I mean, like for me, Jaws is my number one all time favorite film. It's the sole reason why, or not the sole reason, but one of the three reasons why I'm a horror fan. Um,
mhm.
and yes, I will argue tooth and nail that Jaws is 100% a horror film. That's me. Everyone has different opinions, but whatever. But yeah, I could honestly write an encyclopedia as to why Jaws is one of the best movies. In my opinion, it is the best movie ever made. I love it. It's fantastic. It's a perfect 10 out of 10 for me. It's flawless. It just in my opinion, it's
It
flawless.
really is, yeah.
I know there's people out there. I work with a lot of younger people, 20-year-olds who when I tell them it's my favorite movie, they'll turn around and go, "But the shark looks so fake." And I have to remind them that that movie came out in 1975. That's an actual robot in the water. And then I think that makes them appreciate it a lot more when I tell them that. But yeah, for me, like Jaws is just absolutely incredible. Everything about it. Quint's USS Indianapolis speech is my favorite scene in the movie. I mean, I've got Jaws tattooed on me, so the poster,
Yeah.
so that says a lot.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, it's like I said earlier. I mean, we could do a review where we just quote scenes, and I think we would probably get a lot of response to that. The suspense to this is fantastic. The
Mhm,
special effects for what they are fantastic. The cast is amazing. I love the interplay between everybody. I don't disagree with your statement in the slightest that it's a perfect 10 out of 10.
mhm.
Why people don't consider this as one of the best films ever made, even like I said, regardless of genre, I think it's one of the it's in the worst. It's the top 5 best films ever made.
Yep. Yeah, I back you.
Yeah. All right. So, at the risk of turning this into a Jaws discussion, we have any honorable mentions that weren't brought up in the course of conversation?
I've got one, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's a perfect movie or anything like that, but it's one that caught me off guard, and it's a movie that came out this year. Actually, it's a movie called From the Depths. So the
Hmm.
story is after surviving a shark attack, a young woman is plagued by nightmares of being stalked in the dark sea by the shark, and hallucinations of visits from her sister and her boyfriend, both who were killed by the shark. This movie isn't great. I'll say that it's very low budget. But what I like about it is it did something different. This lady is suffering from PTSD about a shark attack, and she sees the shark in like hallucinations swimming through her hallway. I like that whole scenario on it. Um, if it was done better, I think it would actually probably hit my top 10. But I thought I'd shout it out because I actually really enjoyed the story of this. So, From the Depths, it's called.
Yeah, I saw that a while ago too. I do agree. I think the premise to this is a great idea.
Yep.
Um, like I said, I just wish that they would have done something a little more because it just feels a little lacking.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but it's a great premise and one that I think I'd love to see another take on this concept for sure.
Yeah.
My honorable mention. This is another Sharknado week premiere. I've seen it go by various titles. When I saw it, it was called Frenzy, but
Okay.
I think it goes by another title called Surrounded.
Yep.
I think that's the name of it. So basically, like I said earlier, this is a take on the reef, where a group of this one here, it's two sisters and their friends. I think they're on a sightseeing trip and their plane gets stranded, and they have to float back to safety because all of their equipment is in the damaged ship.
Mhm.
But I had a lot more fun with this than I expected. I think the attacks are far more brutal than they ever should have been because it's a sci-fi channel premiere. It's not shocking in the least. This is a much more of a serious take on the matter. The sharks are treated seriously. There's no just, oh my God, what kind of stupid cheese is this kind of a moment. It's a lot more intense and visceral than a lot of people give it credit for. And I don't see a lot of people talking about it. So, yeah, just wanted to shout that out. Like I said, I did have a couple of others. I did mention the 47 and meters down and uncaged.
Mhm.
And I also had Deep Blue Sea 3 on my honorable mentions. So,
Nice, nice.
yeah. All right. So that concludes another fantastic episode. Thank you so much, man. This was just as much fun as I thought it would be.
Oh man, it's an honor to be with you and finally getting a chance to record with you. This was great. And we got to talk about Jaws, so I'm happy.
Absolutely, yeah. For those of you that are interested, give your show a shout out and all your links.
Yeah, okay, cool. So Horror for Dummies is just another horror podcast, basically. But what we do is I get one of my friends who isn't really much of a fan of horror movies, and I'm trying to educate him and teach him the ways of what us horror fans are in love with. So I'm showing him all the classics and all that stuff, and then we review a newer movie as well. So it's a lot of fun. We are not a PG show. We are very R-rated. So yeah, if you're listening in the car with kids, I advise you not to. But yeah, you can find us on all basically anywhere: Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, anywhere you find podcasts. So yeah, check us out if you want.
Great. Definitely will too, and I'll absolutely link everything in the show notes below. So, thank you all for listening, and until next time, we will see you later.
Bye.